Hey guys, welcome to Yesterday's Tomorrow. Today is today, and now is the today. Yes, and today, or not today, a long time ago, long time ago, like maybe Monday or something, um, I realized, no, it was actually on Sunday. Yeah, I realized, like, yo, I need to become game programmer or whatever, like the thing after I was at the gaming course, or like the that I don't remember if it was last time or last Yaptime episode. No, I think I was stressed out and I was like pissed at everything and nothing at the same time. But today, or not today, well, yeah, today I'm gonna go to my grandmother's house because she got older on Thursday. I don't know her age, but I know that she had her birthday on that day. And today I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna bring my saxophone. I'm gonna play a little bit of musical instrument. Not because I'm good at it, but because I'm bad at it, and I want to show that I am not. I wasn't just born with the skills. I had to learn the stuff, and the next time I'm there, I'm probably like a pro or something. Because I rarely spend time with my family. It's kind of whack. I don't even spend a lot of time with friends. I spend most of my time just sitting alone making stuff, and I like doing that. And so I don't have any like internal pressure to be with more people, because whenever I'm not with people, I'm kind of just recharging from like real life when I'm like outside and stuff. Um, and I really like having those moments of just like being alone. Nobody's like contacting me, no phone calls, no messages, just like me being able to just put my creativity into something like completely, instead of like feeling like tired or like not having the time or something. Because whenever I don't have time to create, I die like instantly. Not instantly, but I have seen a link in like my mental health going like steadily down whenever I'm not making stuff, or when I haven't made stuff in a while. So therefore, it's very important for me to keep making stuff. And the family thing is kind of just like, or friends and family thing is kind of just me not realizing how much time goes by, and like I kind of forget about people. Not because I hate them or I'm not, or that I don't love them. It's just that I have enough in my brain to like not. I don't have any space for other people in my head, I feel. Only ever like a few people at a time. Like I can't really like wield my time with like several people. It's just like overwhelming and stuff. Um, but yeah, I am at least like the things I've said earlier in the other episodes of Yaptime. I talked about like, oh, I don't want to get like a normal job and like 9 to 5 and 9 to 5 and like get responsibilities and stuff. But then when I realized after I had gone to the programming thing, like, oh shit, I can learn programming and I can make games because I know stuff that is like valuable. I think at least the guy from the course was like, yo, you could make like your own game. And I'm like, hell yeah, real. I even tried it once, but I like the coding stuff. never seemed interesting to me, or like never. I was never like um I was never really into coding because it always just seemed so complex and like, oh, I don't want to write and stuff. But then when I had like an epiphany or like an eureka moment, eureka, I don't know, at the game development course thingy, I was like, yo, okay, now I kind of understand something. It was like bare bones, like, yo, this is what a variable is. What? No way. Now I know what the like the public float type bit, like the public float is like a number that you can change in the viewport, and like if you wanna have, let's say, um if you want to have a light, for example, you could have like a public float and tie that public float, or call it like light brightness or something, or maybe just brightness, and then you could link that float, or you could use uh, that variable to control the light, like how bright the light is, and then you can see the slider or like the number in the viewport, so you don't have to go into the code to change the light. And I was like, whoa, yo, it's so fucking, I understand something. And it was like understanding something fundamental in Blender. It just felt like the same, and like, whoa, I love this, because I actually like, I really love having those like eureka moments whenever I just like understand something, when something just clicks. And that's when I realized, like, yo, I wanna learn to code, because goddamn, it's probably way more fun than I've thought. And the reason I didn't like it was because all the experience I had was like boring coding uh exercises in school, where they were like, okay, you gotta do this exact thing, and you gotta follow these commands, you gotta do exactly like what's told here, and you're not given any creative freedom, because there was no creative freedom. You just moved blocks, you just wrote the same as the teacher showed on the screen. And we did that. We did write exactly what the guy in the course told us to do, because like you needed to, or there was one guy who was really like high on himself and like, I know how to code, and like uh threw the guy under the bus, like, yo, this is wrong, I would rather do this. And like, bro, shut the fuck up, you came here to a like beginner friendly course. Why the fuck do you like, I don't know, he was kind of just like upset at everything, I guess. Um, but the guy was really like, he was very helpful. There were so many times where my brain was like, yo, why doesn't this work? Or not even just my brain, it was also like Unity being like, yo, this ain't right. And then he took one look at it and was like, oh, you set it as a public uh variable, but you needed to make it a private variable. And I'm like, yo, okay. And then like some like semicolons and stuff, like, yo, having like a personal support type thing, or like someone who just tells you like, this is what you did wrong, like a mentor or whatever, it's so helpful. And that's how I kind of learned all the things I know about Blender, or most of the things that I know about Blender, from just like trying stuff and like, yo, what the fuck, why doesn't it work? And then a guy with more information tells me like, oh yeah, you need to do this. And I'm like, wait, what? And then they explain it, and then I'm like, yo, okay. And then I kind of understand it, or I fully understand it, or I don't understand it at all. And then I completely, like, I run into the same problem like several times, and like suddenly it just clicks like a long time after or something, or maybe like the 10th time doing it, I'm just like, okay, whoa, okay, now I understand, like, type of bit. um but yeah, I realized like, oh shit, I wanna ask him if I can become like a um if I could become an intern there. And he said they didn't have space, or they didn't have resources for another intern because they already had one. And I was like, no. But I luckily had a meeting with the government kind of, no, the guys who helped me, like, who are supposed to help me like finish my degree in like whatever, like media or graphic design or whatever, like 3D graphical designers, something like that. And I had told them like last time I was there, before I had gone to the before I even knew about the game course. I was like, I'm gonna stop this program thing. I'm gonna no, not the, I'm gonna stop this program, as in like the help thing that I'm getting. And like I'm gonna just stop looking for a job and like fully go in for like making my own business, and like be my own boss and stuff like that. And I had turned my back completely on those people, and we were going to have like one last uh, meeting, and that last meeting was supposed to be like my like end of an era. And so I only had like 10 minutes, or the woman who was going to talk with me had like 10 minutes set aside. uh but I had already changed my mind back to like, okay, I want to finish my degree, I want to become a game developer or whatever, I want to learn to code. And so she was like, yeah, okay, whoa, nice. And she became a bit happy, I think, because she yeah, she's gonna like personally help me uh both like find the job, and like find out like how, like, what my capabilities are of like fitting into a job, so I'm not like over stressing for like just like I did at the last place I were. Because at that place I was so exhausted all of the time, because I was being like used in the wrong circumstances. Like the things that I was bad at, I was they didn't like see the things that I was bad at as like, oh, okay, we're gonna help you find out how to get better. It was just like, no, you just have to get better. Like, you just have to work harder, and you have to be better or whatever. And I was like, bro, here are things that I'm bad at, and here are ways I feel like I can like mitigate the problems a bit. And they were like, no, you got to do it this way. And I'm like, oh. And then people kept saying, or this one guy kept saying like, I don't think you're built for this industry. And I'm like, bitch, what the fuck? Yeah, of course I am. I don't wanna. Or after a while, I was just like, yeah, I'm not, I guess. And then he kept doing it, and I'm like, okay, like, what is the reason for why do you even like say stuff like that? Like, it was clear that he was like, to me he said it to like demotivate me or whatever. But I don't know. I don't understand why he did it. Maybe he like I can only speculate, and it's like the speculation that's kind of like bad because I don't I don't know. I have a hard time understanding people every now and then, or very often, and so stuff like that is like, what did he mean? Did he mean like was he just insecure about like his abilities or whatever he was like considered good at? Because he was definitely not good at a lot of things, and he used like the argument that he was like he had like a master's degree of like animation, um and like yeah, I don't know, I felt like he wasn't very good at like visual stuff, and I could kind of see that he was also like insecure about like how stuff like making stuff look good or whatever, because I don't know, he didn't really understand like colors and stuff and like design. So I don't know, he also commented one time that like if he had known that 3D wasn't just like technical stuff but also like a lot of like visual and design related stuff, he would have like gone to art school and stuff like that instead of just going to like whatever. I don't even remember what, like maybe he only went to like animation school or whatever. And yeah, it's pretty interesting how, because back in the day 3D anything with 3D was mostly just technical stuff and like very technical and like hard to do for like very many people. But now it's like so much easier to be to make 3D stuff if you're just if you have like very little technical skill. Like I've seen people who have like barely any PC knowledge or like any like technical knowledge and stuff. They can use Blender, maybe not make it look very like, or they might not make it very advanced and like very like cool in the technical way, but they can definitely make it cool in like the visual way, because there's like two ways of looking at it, many ways of looking at it, but two main ways maybe. And that is like you can make something technically cool, like make it impressive in the fact that the technicalities are like, whoa, you how did you do that, oh my god, you did the thing with that thing. And then you can, and it might look like complete ass to anyone who doesn't understand the entire point of the thing, and where they would go like, oh, it looks like ass. But people who know the tools, they would understand it and like, oh shit, this is so cool. But when you're making stuff that is meant to be viewed by people who like the average person, it doesn't matter how complex or like technical and stuff. And so so then it often comes to the like the it's often then the other way of the other main way, like visual focused. Like it might be technically like really bad, like anyone who knew how to do those things would go like, oh my fucking god, what the fuck, and like they would rather kill themselves than like open up that project and like trying to figure out what the fuck they're looking at. but it might look like really good. But to anyone who knows how to work with those stuff, or people who have to work on the thing and like keep using the asset or whatever, they would go like, no fucking way I'm gonna fucking keep my like, they're gonna shave off like tens of like decades of their lives from just thinking about the horrors. And there are of course like in-betweens, and like it's not like a black and white type of thing. It's like a spectrum, because you can kind of like have a lot of technical stuff and also a lot of visual stuff like in the middle zone, and you can have like some technical stuff but also heavily relying on like visual stuff. And I believe that if you're only comfortable standing on one of the sides, your your artist level or like your skill level will suffer like greatly. If you're always, if you believe like, oh, I could never learn the technical stuff, oh, I'm just good at like the visual stuff, I could never, like, you're not gonna learn the technical stuff because you don't believe you can. Like, you believe you can't learn it, therefore you won't learn it. And it's not just like, you don't just say like, oh, okay, no, I can learn the technical stuff. It's, or maybe like, oh, I can't learn the visual stuff if you're technical uh, oriented or whatever. Like, as long as you think like, oh, I can't learn that, I will never learn that, I will never be good at that, that will remain true. And the way, one of the ways you can fix that, or like not limit yourself like that, is not by just saying like, oh yeah, I can do it, I believe in myself, I can do it. Because if you don't have evidence to show that you can, you will lose faith and like, oh shit, okay, I can't, I can't do the thing, I guess. And the for every time you say like, okay, I can learn this, and then you don't learn it, that just reinforces your uh thought of like, I can't learn this and that, and like, oh, I have, because you have more evidence that you can't learn it than you have for you being able to learn it. And therefore it's very important to learn as, or in my opinion, it's very important to learn very varied, a lot of varied, many varied things. Because if you learn one thing, get really good at it, you might think like, oh, I can't learn this part of the thing because I haven't been good at that, and I'm not gonna, or the times that I've tried learning those things, I haven't been able to. And of course, you don't need to focus on the skills, like being a good artist does not mean you need like talent, or successful artist. I don't know, success is a kind of vague term in my opinion. But yeah, you don't need like to know a lot of stuff to be a successful, in quotation marks, artist. Like, you can learn, you don't, you could like draw a line if that's what you want. Like, the people, a lot like non-artists believe there are like a, or believe way more, or they think there is like a border or like a barrier to becoming an artist. And isn't actually like the like you don't need to learn to draw perspective, you don't need to learn about colors and stuff, but it definitely helps because what you get from learning those things is the freedom to create um, what you have in your mind. Because people who don't know the skills, they won't be able to take, or uh, the results of their artwork or their artwork, the results will not line up very well with what they have in their head, like the vision they have. And that is, you could say, like one measurement of like uh, artist success could be like, depending on what your priorities are. You could say that successful artists are people who can take what they have in their head, like the vision, and replicate it as, like, the closer you get it to your vision, the better you are, maybe. I don't really think that is like how I want to, like, uh, that's not one how I want to qualify or call as success. I don't really know what I think is like a successful artist, or maybe like independent, like you're able to make whatever you want, and that could tie into like being able to make your vision. Because if you want to make the vision, if you're able to make the vision because you have the skills and the money and the time, I think that would be my definition of like a successful artist. Because if you never have time but you have the skills, or you don't have the money but you have the time and the skills, then you wouldn't be able to make as much. And so having the funds required to be able to make what you want, having the time to be able to make what you want, and having the skills to make what you want. Because you don't need the skills to make something you don't want, but skills can be transferable, even though they might not seem connected. Like how I learn stuff about music while making, uh, just for random thing, I could be making bread, and I could like have a realization like, yo, if I do a certain thing, just like when I'm making this bread, if I do the same thing or apply the same mindset, or like if I do this thing to this specific thing when I'm making music, it might be better, or something. And like I might have like a realization out of like making bread, right? It's bread making. You wouldn't see that as anything closely related to music. Like, what the fuck is like baking, making music? What? No, there's no connection there. But there are always connections between everything. It's mostly down to how good you are at seeing the connections. Like if you're bad at seeing the connections, you might not get anything out of like doing the random things. But as long as you see the connections and you're able to see like, oh, okay, I can actually like understand a different, way more complex topic by doing this completely different thing that's like not even in the same category of like skills or whatever. But it's mostly about mindsets. It's often about mindsets. Like skills, yeah, sure, you might need them, but if you can have like the best skills, but if you like have the wrong mindsets, like have weak mindsets or have like self defeating mindsets and stuff, you won't be able to use those skills. And even if you have little skills, if you have the mindsets, you might be able to learn the skills. But if you don't have the mindsets, you won't be able to learn things. So it's mostly about mindsets, and mindsets you can that could be from getting a different perspective, from trying something completely different, or listening to someone who you normally think is wrong or incorrect, or like they are not correct because they think this is true. And like, yeah, if you have different, whenever you get different perspective, it's a chance to like learn more or like find out more. All of this stuff might sound like really obvious to many people, but I believe also that some people, just like me, not that long ago, I was completely unaware to all of this stuff. So that's why I'm saying it like it's like some god, no, it's some like sacred text. Like, wow, everyone needs to learn this, because it definitely helped me starting to, or whenever I started reflecting more on like my decisions and like my thoughts and my like what do I think is right and why do I think those things are right and why do I think these people are wrong, and like why, what, why, when, and how, and like all of those types of words. Because sometimes you are wrong, and if you're, the more acceptable you are to being wrong, the more right you will become. Did that rhyme? I don't know. In my opinion, if you're like you, I guess like the variable would be like your acceptance of being incorrect is kind of linked, is somehow tied to your correctness over time or whatever. Because like you will spend less energy confronting the fact that you were incorrect if your ego allows you to like accept that, okay, I was incorrect and these are the reasons for why, or this is how I was incorrect. And like the more you're able to accept and like learn from what you were incorrect about, the more right you will become, and the more, maybe not the more right you will become, but the more perspectives you get, and the more perspectives you get, the more you're able to like realize what might be the right the answer to a specific thing. And even though you have been like, even though you're even though you feel like you are very good at accepting that you're wrong, you could still uh like not be, no, you could still like not be correct. No, what, I don't know. If you strongly believe that you are great at accepting that you're incorrect and that you don't see that you sometimes have problems with accepting that you're incorrect, like if you always think that you're all the time like really good at being incorrect and like realizing that, you might not realize that you have sometimes that you aren't good at it, and like you might not realize that you need to change, or you don't need to change. Change is like, it's only going to happen if you feel it is necessary. Like if someone else thinks you should change, if you change because of those who say that, uh I don't know, insert something profound, I guess. But yeah, what was I talking about like 30 minutes ago? I don't know. I really yeah, it was like uh technical. And yeah, if you I like the quote that like, no matter if you believe you can or you can't, you're probably right. Because if you really believe that, oh, I can't make, or I can't learn this, then you can't, because you will tell yourself, oh, I can't do this, I just can't do this. And the evidence, like if you big the if you begin with like really complex things, like let's say I started trying to learn Blender way earlier, and I couldn't do it because maybe the interface was bad, because I started like before 2.8, like way back when, or not way back when in like before 2018, I think that's when 2.8 came out. um so yeah, I wait, was it 2020? No, 2020, 5 years. Whoa, bruh. Okay, well, anyway, before yeah, if I had tried to learn Blender, and like I think even I did stop trying to learn it because I was like, oh, this is so hard. And I did end up learning a lot about Blender in the end. And I don't believe that would have happened if I hadn't at least learned a lot of like uh, games, or like played a lot of games like Scrap Mechanic, or uh, like Homebrew Patent Unknown. That's one of my favorite games. I can't play it anymore because the controls in the editor does not line up very well with Blender, and so it just feels so hard to play it, and it just feels so janky now. And I don't like that it feels so janky, because I love the game. Like, even though you don't have any like objectives, and you don't have any like story, it's just so fun just messing around with like putting engines on things and wheels, and just putting wings and stuff, and like just flying around the map. Like, it's the most in-depth vehicle creation game I've ever played, and it's so hard to understand. It's like I remember like watching so many tutorials on like, how do I make the most basic car, because there's so much going on. You need to like learn how to wire up the engines, the fuel, and the fucking tires, and the torque to the gearboxes, and like there is so much shit going on, and there are stats on the things, and you can like, oh my god, you can have like custom keybinds, and there are so many fucking things, and the map is so fucking huge. You can like fly around in at like Mach 10, and it takes you like a minute to go from one end to another, and it's just so fucking fun. But I can't play it anymore because it's just so hard. Or when I say I can't play it anymore, I've not had the same amount of fun, because it's just been like, oh, I don't know, it's just so fun just flying around in whatever I make. And that's kind of like what I wish I could do in Unreal. Like, if I can make, for example, just model a plane in Blender, and then program everything that needs to be done to make like a flying game, just to have like fun, just flying around, just noodling around, not not making like a full game, just like making mountains, terrains and stuff, and like, oh, what do I want to do to make this more fun to just fly around, like do nothing but just fly around. Like, oh yeah, maybe I can add like a loop or something I can fly in through or something. And then like, how do I make the flying more satisfying? Oh well, maybe I can make it like behave in a different way or whatever. And those things, like, when I think about it, like, it would be so it would be so freeing if I learn how to just, like, if I look at someone playing a game and I'm like, yo, those buttons were so cool. How did they make that puzzle? Or like, how oh, I want to make a thing like this, or like whatever. Like, it would be so freeing if I could just see something, or maybe maybe from a game, or maybe from real life. Maybe I see like, yo, this um like whatever I'm doing right now is like so cool. I would love to make this into a game or something. And then not just thinking like, oh, it would be cool as a game, like if I had this and that and stuff like this. Instead of just thinking those things, if I could actually make that stuff, like what I was saying with like the having a vision and being able to make that vision, like, if I could if I learn how to make if I learn how to program a game, I could learn how to program robotics. I could learn how to make I could learn how to make robots and like use 3D printing to make all sorts of things. I could make so many things, and because programming isn't like I've realized that if I learn to program a game, even if it's visual coding, like the nodes in Unreal, it like if you learn if you only learn or if I only learn the like the blocks, and I don't think like, okay, how does this block work? Like, what is this node? Like, what does this do? What does it actually like say to the other nodes? Like, what is this specific node, or like what are these specific nodes? Because like you can see like, okay, this collection of nodes creates this outcome. Okay, I have no idea why, but this tutorial said it did. Like, having a surface level understanding of programming is not very like broad. Maybe like I uh uh like when you're starting out, if you're making, for example, some simple things in Unreal, or you're like making stuff in like the Roblox studio engine thingy, like it might seem unimportant and like, oh, okay, I'm learning this like wacky ass programming language. Like, you're not just learning the language, or like the way, like in Unreal, you're not just learning the nodes, you're learning the mindsets, and like, how do you think like a programmer, not just how to program. Because knowing how to program is knowing how to think like a programmer. If you don't think like a programmer, it won't make sense. Like, the things, like for example, you won't, if you just if you go in with the idea, or if you, let's say you're a chef. Okay, I'm not a good chef, so I can't really make that. Okay, if I go in as a but I can't really make the comparison because I don't know programming yet, right? I don't know how to like. Yeah, I haven't like learned programming the mindsets, at least not yet. So I don't think I can actually make a example of what I'm trying to say, because I guess one way I could look at it is like if I do it with something that I know a little bit of, and I guess like modeling, character modeling, like knowing that you need to, or having the mindset of like seeing the flow of the geometry, like how does the flow of the topology change how the deformation works, and like how how having quad topology changes, or like how n-gons and triangles affect the mesh, not just like you don't need, or you should keep away from having n-gons. Understanding why you shouldn't have n-gons, or when you can have them and when you can't, like understanding the mindset of like, okay, I can't put an n-gon there, I need to put in another loop, or I need to take away a loop to make it a quad, or like I can use a triangle here because of this reason. Like understanding the mindsets, like when, why, how, and like whatever the thing, when stuff is wrong and when the wrong stuff is right, and when the, yeah, instead of like thinking like, okay, this, I've heard this is right and this is wrong, okay, I gotta do that all the time. Like understanding, being able to understand like when the right option is wrong and when the wrong option is right. That is what you learn with experience. You can't really learn that based on someone else telling you, or else, or at least the person who explains it would need to know you very well, and like what you know, and if they have the same, like if you know, for example, baking, for example, right? If you know how to make bread or whatever, a person, if the person trying to teach you 3D could explain to you how to do, or how a thing works based on terms you know from like cooking, like baking bread or something. So they could say like, okay, okay, that was a bad example. Bread, I don't. Okay, let's say music. If you are really good at music and you know all of the theory and stuff like that, I don't know theory, but I know more about making music than making bread, because all my bread just turns into rocks, I guess. So I'm just gonna try using music as an explanation. If the person explaining to you knows you and knows how much you know about music, and they also know about music, they could be like, okay, the flow of oh my god, it's stuff like this when I realize like I don't know shit, because if I can't explain it like simply, it's either that I haven't reflected on it enough, or I'm not like I don't have enough knowledge to like simplify it enough. but like, let's say you're talking about modeling, right? Or maybe modifiers. Yeah, modifiers. If you're trying to explain to a person who knows music, like how to make music, like music production and stuff, you could say like, okay, modifiers are non-destructive filters, like kind of like EQ and reverb and like echo type stuff. Okay, bro. Stuff like that. Like if you have like a auto wow or whatever, that's kind of like how modifiers work, because you're not changing the fundamental, like you're not changing the recording, like fundamentally. You're not like non-destructively, no, you're not destructively changing the recording. You're putting effects on top of it, and then you can change the audio separately. And that is kind of how modifiers work in Blender. You're not, like, if you're beveling the model in edit mode, it's like adding reverb to the recording file, like the actual like audio, the MP3 track or whatever, the WAV track. And you can't like undo it, or you can undo it then and there, but if you've done like a lot of things afterwards, you can't like control Z that specific thing, and therefore it's destructive. It's a destructive change, right? So beveling in edit mode is a destructive change. Now you can for example use the bevel modifier, and what a lot of people don't understand is that you have different ways of specifying where to have that bevel, because people might think like, oh, you just enable it and then you have the amount of degrees, because it starts with like a normal bevel modifier has the width of the bevel set to like 10 centimeters, and then they have the qualifier, like where to put the bevel. At any place there is a 30-degree bend or more, 30-degree or more, it will put a bevel. And then you have the segments, how many segments you want the bevel to be. And if you keep it at the normal bevel settings, or just change the segments number and the width of the bevel, it can seem very limited. The use case could be very limited, but if you change the limit method, no, not the limit, the where it will put the bevel from like angle based to weight based, you could essentially have one bevel modifier set to each, like to vertex groups, or you could use it, you could make your own vertex group, so you could have like 5 different bevel modifiers, doing like 5 different types of beveling, and you could specify 5 different places with 5 different vertex groups, and so you don't have one consistent size of the bevel everywhere. You could basically make a very simple geometry, like a handful of polygons, and make it into a really complex shape. And you could just turn off the modifiers, or you could remove the modifiers, and the basic shape, it's very basic, but it remains unchanged. So if you're unhappy with all of the changes that all of the modifiers do, you could just remove them, and no stress, right? Or you could just disable them. You don't even need to remove them. So if you don't want to remove them, like if you want to check if you could do something else, you can just hide it. And the same you can do for like audio effects. You could just disable the audio effect. You could have like audio effects to make the sound completely different. Like you can make a basic piano become a like I can't come up with an idea now. You can make it like speak, maybe. Like if you put enough effort into it, you could probably make like this piano sound like it's talking to you, right? And then if you're like, okay, but I want to add like more reverb, you could just add another reverb thingy, or like one reverb or whatever, and just change that. And yeah, and like the you could like the vertex groups stuff, like limiting or like specifying the bevel based on the vertex group, or what the assigned vertex group is on the vertices. You could maybe do that with like the frequency of the sound. Like high notes will have more reverb, or maybe like the reverb will only be at the high notes, and like the low tones might have like a resonance or whatever, and like the mid tones, and like you could in theory like specify a very thin range of frequencies, or yeah, in the audio file, and like exactly 6,000, between 6,000 and 7,000. I want this effect. I don't know if you can actually do that, but maybe if you add like a layer, or if you duplicate the track and then you move it down and like, or up or whatever, and then you add like a limit type thing that limits the signal to be only in that gap, and then you add all the effects to that, and then you maybe do the reverse limit on the original track, where you just like mute the specific like gap in the frequencies, and so you're just splitting the thing in two type bit. And yeah, you could just like change the things without changing the fundamental thing. I guess that's the non-destructive workflow. And that's also kind of related in like programming with like the variables. Instead of making the variable like a number, like a straight up like saying like, okay, health is okay, I'm just gonna say like an example that the guy told us in the course. Like if I set if you set health of the enemy or whatever to 10 in the code, like you specify it with a number, you need to like open the code again to change the health. Like, okay, 10 was maybe too much or too little. Like if it was too much, you might need to go in and then change it down to like 5, and then you're like, okay, this might work, and then you run the game again, and then you realize like, okay, no, that was too little, and then you go into the code again, and then you add like a 7 maybe, and it's not entirely the same, because it's not, you can undo it or you can change it like later, but if you have, instead of a value like a number, if you then have a variable that you make it so you can, like, if you make it public, like you can change it in the viewport, then you could make it would be, you wouldn't need to go into the code to change it. You could change it in the thing, and you could also then use that variable in a different calculation. Like you could say like, okay, I want this kind of bad guy or enemy to have this many points or health points, and then I want this type of enemy to have this amount of health, and then you could specify like instead of having like instead of going in and like changing each one, you could like each one separately. You could like say then you don't need to go into every type of enemy's code and like change the number separately. You could have like maybe a one place where you could have like a modifier or whatever, where it's like, I want the base health times 2 maybe, or something. Or you could have that as like I don't have enough knowledge about programming, so it's kind of like I'm seeing a lot of pictures in my head and I'm trying to like put words on it, but I just feel like this just doesn't make sense. So if it doesn't make sense, you're not crazy, I'm the crazy one. But yeah, if you the variables, like instead of thinking like it's like a way of thinking, right? It's a mindset. Like if your mindset is like, okay, I'm gonna give this enemy 10 health points, and then I'm gonna give this weapon damage of 7, and then I'm gonna make this armor have 5 armor points, instead of like, okay, I'm gonna have the enemy have max enemy health, a variable called max enemy health, and then I'm gonna make my sword have max damage variable, and then my armor will have a max armor point, or like armor, max armor strength or whatever. And then you could change that stuff, and you could also like do math operations. Like you could have like multipliers, like armor multiplier could be 1.6 for the helmet, and maybe it's like 1.8 or like maybe 2 for the like chest plate, and like half for the boots. And then yeah, you could like change that stuff, so maybe there is like a ratio, or like just like in Minecraft how the the armor is kind of different, I guess. But yeah, you could like have a lot more customizability, I guess, or more it's easier to change, because you would only have to change, like, let's say you have 100 different armor pieces. If you had to go into all of them individually and like specify, okay, this one I want to have this amount of protection, and this other thing I want to have even more protection, so I'm going to change that to from 10 to a 20, when the other one has like a 7. And instead of doing that, you could like even make an armor variable called tear, so you could like multiply by specific numbers based on their tear. Like if you made like iron, gold, and diamond, you could have like iron tear is a 1, gold tear maybe a half thing, and then diamond could be like 2 times. Instead of going in and saying like, okay, I want this to be like 20 and the iron to be 10 and the gold to be 5, you could just say that like, okay, I want gold to be half of iron, and I want iron to be this normal, and then the thing. And I didn't think of that before the guy explained it, and I was like, yo, okay, that makes so much sense. And I also connected it to the things in Unreal that I've learned when I worked at the other place, like the promote a variable function when you split, or when you like right click on a input on a node, you could like promote a variable and it will make a variable out of that thing. And you could make the variable public by clicking the eyeball, and if you don't click the eyeball, it's a private variable, meaning that it's only accessible in the code, right? You can only set it in the code, and if you make it public, you can change it either both in the code and the viewport, or just the viewport. Maybe both. You could probably do both. But yeah, those stuff like that is like a mindset, right? You think in a different way. It's one of the, like, it's a way you think, right? Instead of like, yeah, no, I've just repeated the same thing over and over, I feel, about like the variables. But yeah, it's like there are so many mindsets that I've like when I'm if I get an internship at that place, and I get to learn from people who know how to code, like I will learn their mindsets, and I will learn a lot faster, because the mindsets you can learn on your own. It just takes a lot of time and like repetition, and trying to understand it, right? You're going to understand it in the end, like if you spend enough time, or not just time. You need to spend time and then reflect, and then get inspiration from other sources. Like if you look at the internet, like YouTube videos, tutorials, or just like for example like Acerola, the guy who makes like random stuff in both Unity and Unreal. Like, I think he mainly uses Unity, and then recently he's been starting doing stuff with Unreal, and it's so interesting to look at. I don't remember the mindsets, and I don't remember the things, the principles and stuff, but it's so interesting. And I've seen how many ways there are of thinking about stuff, and like it's so fun learning about mindsets, not always just about the information. Like, the information, it's important to have information, but if you don't understand how to use that information, if you don't understand how to apply it, like in a usable way, no matter how much information you have, it doesn't matter. Because if you have the information and you're like, okay, I know that I know that I should use a variable, but I don't know how to use a variable here. For example, like, that's the only thing I know about coding, I guess. Yeah, the variables, hell yeah. That's also kind of like a thing that I've learned in Blender, because you have drivers in Blender, not like car drivers or like paper driver or whatever. A driver is basically, it just copies, or at least how, no, it's a driver is an operation. If I've understood it correctly, it's basically an operation that you can, let's say if you have a slider that goes from 0 to 1, you can copy that, copy the slider as a driver, or like copy the path to that slider and paste it into another slider where you want to control. Like, if you the first slider is where you control the thing, and the second slider where you paste the driver into is what you control using the first slider, right? So you could like paste a driver into, for example, the rotation of an object. So you could have, like, instead of opening up the instead of rotating it manually, right? Rotating a cube by 360 degrees, you could then, instead of that, you could paste the slider from 0 to 1 into the rotation on whichever axis you want, and then you could like, it's either making it like out of the box, it's either making it so it's rotating 360 degrees between the 0 and the 1, or it's like rotating by some value. And if it isn't rotating by by 360 degrees, or maybe you want it to be more than that, you could go into and change that driver and make it a math function. Like, you could make it, for example, like slider A plus slider B. Let's say you have a slider B, and that's like the multiplier of multiplier of like how many rotations you want, and then the first slider is like from 0 to 1, from 0 to 360, basically. Like, it translates to, or rotates to 360, and then the second slider is how many rotations, right? And you could do then slider 1, or let's say A times B, and then it will do that. It will take the the rotation of the the 0 to 1, and do it to like 360, and then times. Jesus Christ, I realized like this is, if you know programming, this is probably like super frustrating, but this also is nice that I'm saying, because if I do get like, let's say I do get the same kind of like love for programming that I did when I did for Blender when I got the job at the place. Like, I didn't know what a normal map was. I didn't know how to model. I didn't know any of that stuff. But I don't know how little I knew, because didn't I don't have anywhere that I talked about it. Like, I only said it to the people there. Like, I could only like look back at like the stuff that I made, the pictures that I took, or the screenshots that I took, and having me like the having video of me trying to explain variables as if it's quantum mechanics. Like, it goes to show like how much, or now I'm like talking as if I'm going to become like a god at mod, or like programming, and I'm like, in a few years I'm going to like, I don't know, be unstoppable, and like, I'm unstoppable, dun, 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 dun. Because if I can, like, I see this, like, I see programming now as like a thing that if I learn, it can change everything. Like, I can, if I learn how to program, even if it's not Python, I could learn Python a lot easier, because it's like, um it's like when you learn your first language, like first second language, I guess, uh it's the hardest one. If you learn it like later in life, not like a child, like having parents or living a place where they speak several languages or something, you might have a hard time learning that. But every other language that you learn on top of that, the more the easier it gets to learn. And so if I learn like C sharp from working at, if I get a job at that specific place, like, I would be able to essentially, like, if I learn the thought process, I would be able, and I also would have the confidence to try learning Python again, because I tried learning Python when Blender had the game engine in it, like back in 2018. But I found it so hard, because I didn't understand like programming. I didn't understand the mindsets. I didn't understand the thought process and stuff like that. Um, and if I learn, and I didn't even have any evidence that I could learn it. Like, I didn't have any confidence in myself in learning it. Like, I wanted to learn it, but I didn't have the confidence in it, and I didn't have the evidence that I could, right, to support that I should be able, like, yeah, I didn't have that. But if I'm able to like ask questions, and like ask like, how does this actually work, and like not having to have to randomly stumble upon the answer by looking at YouTube videos, because looking at YouTube videos are a great way, or is a great way to learn, but it's also a great way to get like too much information and getting like overstimulated, or like over powered by all of the information, because there's definitely way too much information to be taken in. And since you don't know how fast you should be taking it in, like, you could watch 10 fundamental videos, or videos about fundamentals about programming, and you might remember nothing because it was just way too much, and you might try to learn it way too quickly and like jump through stuff, and you might not. It's like if you try to watch the donut tutorial like all the way through without trying to like make it as well, you're gonna forget everything about how to make a donut. Like you might think you know how to make a donut because you're like, oh yeah, I watched the tutorial, but you won't know how to make a donut in Blender because you didn't, or if you did, you might not remember all the steps because it might have been way too much information to remember, and therefore having the ability to ask for questions, or whenever I do something completely wrong, someone can say like, oh hey, you do this instead, this way you did it is not efficient because of this and that reason, and it would lead to this and that, or it could lead to this and that, and yeah, instead of having to figure those things out, because those things takes time, right? Like we have a very short amount of time on this planet. Like I could die tomorrow, I could die in 10 years, we could Neuralink or whatever could like invent a way to scan the brain, and like I watched Soma I watched Markiplier play through Soma, and now I'm like obsessed with that stuff. Nah, not really. I just realized, I just remembered it. But yeah, if we get to that point where like we could scan our brains and stuff, that would be great. I would be able to learn so much faster. It might be a little whack because because it's not the end result, it's the process of making the thing, and often you learn by making stuff, and or I at least learn by making stuff. I rarely am able to like sit and watch a YouTube video and actually take in, because I just doze off. I just start thinking about stuff, or like one thing that they say was like interesting, and I'm like, whoa, what if I do this and that, and then I doze off, and they keep talking, and I just think in my head about whatever they said like 10 minutes ago. And so it's often like it's really important to get, or having a mentor, having a good mentor, I don't know, is crucial to learning quickly or learning a lot of things. Because if you a bad tutor or a bad mentor could make you learn slower, because a bad mentor doesn't understand you as much as they need to. Like the more a mentor or a tutor knows you, the better they can help you, and the better they can explain things in a way that you understand it, instead of like how you're supposed to be able to understand it. Like if they've been taught by someone else and they just repeat the same thing to you, if you're not able to understand that thing, and they go like, oh, you just can't learn it, then I guess it's not that you're not incapable of learning it, it's that they are not able to teach you. They're only able to remember what they were told, or like they are only like if they don't the more the less they understand you, the harder it will be to make you understand, in my opinion. Because if someone knows you, like knows how you think, how you process stuff, how much you're able to take in at once, and how long you need to process stuff, and like what practices are efficient for you and which ones aren't. Like the better the tutor knows you, the better the experience will be, or the faster or the more efficient, like, and you will also have a lot more fun because you will feel like you're understanding it, because they will know that, okay, you're not understanding this way, okay, I'm gonna try this, okay, no, that didn't work either, okay, let me try this. And then if they have a weak, or if they have a weak ego, like, they might get upset, like, oh, you can't understand this, oh, you're the problem. And like, not being able to accept that, okay, they're explaining it in a poor way, or they're not explaining it simple enough, so they're not like um, familiar with your skill level. And as long as they're not familiar with you, or if they don't know anything about you, like, if they're a complete stranger to you and you're a complete stranger to them, they won't know what to say and what to do. And like, if I had a private tutor, and I was uncomfortable with telling them, like, oh, hey, I zoned out for the last 30 minutes, can you just repeat the entire whatever you said, because I was thinking about something completely different while I was nodding and like saying uh-huh, yeah, but in my head I was like completely different. Like, if I'm uncomfortable telling that person, my tutor or whatever, um those things, like, yeah, I'm not gonna learn, because the things won't stick, because I will be like, oh, I can't ask for help, because if I ask for help, they're gonna get mad. And that's kind of also the thing that was kind of a problem with my last place. Like, the guy who was supposed to teach me kind of had a weak ego, and so he compensated with like being like mad at people. And instead of like understanding people, he would just like say people are not good enough, or like whatever. And that reflects also on how he thought. Like, he probably wouldn't, he said that he was never good at drawing, and like, he wish he was, I don't know if he wished he was good at drawing, but he's just said that he was never good at drawing, and like, he would never uh, be able to like, I don't know, I'm paraphrasing, I don't think he actually said all of that, but it was when he tried to teach me animation. And he was supposed to teach me animation at like during like a Christmas thing, but I felt so, I don't know, I felt weird, because I didn't want his help. So I got the other guy who was also like, they had been in class together and like been friends for a long time, like years, maybe decades or something. Uh yeah, I think it was like several decades or whatever. Um and he was much more chill, because I felt so much more like, me and that guy, we would even go like, I took classes from him, like uh, sword and buckling classes, because I don't know, I just felt like we had way more, like a way better connection. And we even like shared bus rides, because we lived like the same road, or no, we used to walk together towards like wherever the bus, and then he moved to a place where I could take the bus home with him, and that was kind of cool. um, and it's, I don't know, it was so much easier to learn animation stuff from him, because I was like, he thought it was funny when I was like, yeah, he thought it was more funny when I was like, oh dude, I zoned out, I don't understand what I was supposed to do. So I could just like go up to him and just say like, okay dude, I know said, I know I've come over here like 10 times the past hour and asked for what I was supposed to do, but I still don't understand it. And like he comes over and like maybe like sometimes he would like tell me to write it down, or uh, like give me something yeah, other stuff. And it just felt so much more intuitive, like not just the program, but like understanding animation, because I wasn't stressed. I wasn't like, oh no, I don't understand this, oh no, he's gonna hate me, like I was with the other guy. Because the other guy, even though the the guy who helped me a lot, he wasn't really like, he didn't have the most self-confidence, but he wasn't compensating. At least like he wasn't compensating for it. Like you could tell he wasn't confident in himself, but he wasn't like, he wasn't making it a problem for everyone else, right? He wasn't like shouting at people because he felt weird, right? Like the other guy, he would like, if he felt uncomfortable, he would make everyone know that he was uncomfortable, but he would like make it angry based. So he would think like, he made it seem like he would, no, he acted angry, but I think we could all see that like he was actually just like feeling weird, and like he couldn't take the pressure or whatever. He felt like, he always felt like everyone was watching him, which I've definitely felt for a long time. And I know how that kind of works, how that kind of feels. Like every mistake you do, everyone, it feels like everyone is watching you, like everyone is laughing at you. So when me and the other guy, that was more like my age type guy, it was, it was a few years, it was a, yeah, he was a few years older, but that guy, um like we would, yeah, yeah, we would maybe like talk about stuff and laugh, and I could see in the corner of my eye that he would get, the angry guy would get like uncomfortable, and I would be like, no, I'm not laughing at you, we're talking about something else. But like he, yeah, I don't know, I was also just a piece of shit because I was just running around and like not doing work, because I was like, yo, this is like a playground for adults, and like because they told me that like way long ago, and I was like, yo, it's true. And so I didn't really grasp the concept of like, this is actually a job where there's a lot of money flowing, and like the stakes are huge. I think I just kind of mentally blocked it out, because I was just like so afraid of failing because the pressure was so high. And so I was just like, I gotta just stay in a bubble in my head, and like I don't know, I kind of just like became delusional and shit, um because of all of the pressure. And like the delusion was kind of just a defense mechanism, because I felt so bad or was so stressed, and it was like, since the other people at the office didn't care or didn't seem to care, or whenever I told the office manager, he was just like, I don't know, it was more like we just talked about stuff and never actually did anything about the things that I brought up. Like I would say like, oh yeah, I have a problem with this, and then we would talk about stuff like that, and then like I could talk with him about like anything, if it was like a family problem, like a friend problem, or like a personal problem, a health problem, mental health problem, like anything. I felt like I could talk with the guy, but I never felt like the things that I was talking about ever like changed anything. Like nothing changed. It was just like, I don't know. But then again, I was probably like making like stupid like claims, because I thought the guy who was angry all the time wanted to like hurt me, kind of like I thought he wanted me to like not have a good time, because I didn't understand. I didn't like. I have a hard time understanding people because I'm autistic, and since they didn't know anything about autism, it seemed like my my behavior was probably like really weird. But if they knew stuff about autism, and I had also been like masking for a whole long while, like before I had started there. So to them, I might have just like started saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm autistic and like ADHD and stuff," and they might not have believed me because I was like, I had already told them like, "Oh yeah, I was wrongly diagnosed as autistic when I was 8 years old," and like I'm not autistic, and then I double down or like I undo that and say like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm autistic," and like they might have seen it as like, oh yeah, he's just trying to excuse his whatever, his behavior and stuff. And like, bro, I was trying to like open up about why I was doing things, but they were like, no, you can't do that. And like, I don't know. Luckily, I have help specific from the government specifically about finding, or I have like rights for, or privileges, or yeah, rights, that extra rights, special rights, I guess, because I'm autistic and ADHD, diagnosed with ADHD. Um, and so I'm like, I have more, I can get more help than the normal person. So I could go to I could get an internship and work half time and get like the rest paid by the state if I'm unable to work full time, based on like if I, for example, become like really burnt out and I'm unable to work uh, all of that time, or for any other reason, basically. So it's kind of like it's a very good thing, because usually like people who don't have autism and have not like met anyone or don't know anyone who are autistic or aren't okay with people being autistic or whatever, they might see the opportunity that I get, or the help that I get, as unfair, because they don't see like the problems. Like they only see like, oh, this guy gets this and this help. It's like the the special ed kid at school, like whenever there would be someone who would be allowed to like run around outside, or like get to wear headphones in class and listen to music when everyone else weren't allowed, or like they were allowed to use a computer when everyone else had to write on paper in books and stuff, um, and stuff like that. They only see the solution, and the solution is often like desired by more people than just the people who don't have those problems. They want that solution, but the person who has that solution or has that thing, they need it, right? They need that solution, and you don't really like, at least when you're a kid in like middle school or like high school or whatever, you don't understand as much that people have different problems and stuff, so you might like pick on them like, oh yeah, they have these stupid things, they're stupid because they get to use computer, and like, bro, they're not stupid because they get to use a computer. They're well, I got the message. They're just they have a they have a harder time doing the thing, and therefore, to make it more fair for them, they need to have like extra help, or like extra aid to function as well as the normal people, right? So it's not that they're worse. It's just that they need different um they need uh different oh my god, I'm turning into Joe Biden. They need different circumstances is what they often need. Like, it's not that they are incapable of learning. Like, if you have problem with like ADHD or like autism, you know that being in class or like understanding certain stuff is a lot harder, or seems to be not doable for you when everyone else seems to have no issue. And that doesn't mean you're incapable of learning it. Most it often means that you don't have the qualification, you don't have the situation isn't optimal for you to learn those things. And the more help you're able to get, the easier, or the the more you're able to achieve the normal things, right? So, is it like some people say that it's very unfair that people on the autism spectrum get to like have help with stuff and that. But it's like, if you think about it, all of that extra stuff is how much it takes for the normal things to be doable for us, like the people on the spectrum. And of course, it's a spectrum, so it's completely different for every person. And it's um some people might not need that much help. Some people might mask it, so they actually need help, but they don't want the help, or they don't know how to accept the help. Maybe the people that they should get help from don't see the value of the help. Like, if you see autistic people as lesser people, or like less capable people, or humans, you kind of like lose out, or you kind of like, it's kind of giving them a disadvantage. It's so that's kind of, it's the extra help is fair, because without the help, it is unfair for the people on the autism spectrum, right? So it's like making it equal, or like giving the people a chance to like actually being able to do the things that society needs us to do, I guess. Society. Yeah, because some people might think, or it might seem like they can't do anything. And if you like give them the same circumstances as someone who has no problems doing something, it will seem like they're incapable of doing it, right? But if you give them the circumstances where they're able to do the thing, it might look completely different. Like, the circumstances might be completely different. But if you make enough changes to the situation, or like if you bend the rules, or bend the things enough, it might, like, the difference between a normal person's output or whatever compared to one on the spectrum might not be that different, right? It just takes a lot more. Special needs, that's like, we need special help, because that's, yeah. And when I was younger, I was like, I didn't want help. I didn't want like a different week plan, or whatever it's called in English. Like I wanted to have the same homework as all the other ones, but I couldn't do it. I spent 3 hours trying to do like my math homework, and that was like doing 5 tasks, like multiply these numbers and like multiply these 5 numbers and then do that 5 times or like 4 times or whatever. And I would spend like 3 hours because I just couldn't focus. I was unable to focus because there were so many other things in my mind or on my mind. So but my parents and my teachers couldn't really find a good alternative, so I just ended up not doing my homework, and that definitely impacted my grade and my school activity and like my belief in school, like my view of the school system. Like I hate the school system because I don't like how you need to be. The more normal you are, the better you do, and the better grades you get, or the better grades you're able to get. Nowadays it's probably way more like uh, um, focused on like helping people with special needs, and maybe more people have like a view of people with special needs that isn't like that they're lesser, but that they are different. And but kids are mean and stupid and stuff, and they don't understand like people being different yet. Like they might need some more time in the slow cooker, I guess. um but yeah, I don't know, from my experience, school is kind of just like piece of shit kind of thing you just go to because you have to, and you're made to feel worse because everyone else is supposedly doing just fine, everyone except you. And it's just like, okay, I guess I'm just bad, I'm just gonna give up because I can't do the things that everyone else can. And yeah, it's it's it is very good that I'm very thankful that I'm getting help, like special kind of help now, special needs help, because I definitely can't like do like now I'm doing the same as like the mindset thing that I was talking about earlier. Like I can't go have a normal job because I would just die. Like I could probably have a normal job if I got enough like support, but the evidence of like my past experiences, the evidence of me being able to even survive in a job where it's more like pivoted towards stuff that I need, I couldn't even keep that job, right? And so the evidence point, and that's the only job I've really had, right? I've not only through like school and stuff, like a few weeks where I have to work at a place like a kindergarten or something, or at the store for like 2 weeks or something, like one day of the week over like 4 weeks maybe. Um, and so I've never had any evidence to show that I am able to do that. So it's easy for me to believe that I'm not able or that I'm not capable of having a normal job and surviving, because the only evidence that I have, or the only like view of that stuff that I have is that I can't, right? So it was very hard for me to like see me getting a job as a positive thing until I went to um, the game development course, because I was like, I I don't want to work because I'm gonna just use up all of my energy and I'm not gonna have any passion left, because I am not as naive. Like the thing, the place where I worked at was more a cult than a job, basically, because you were like not forced, but you were like emotionally. I don't know. It felt like you were emotionally manipulated to, like, you need to put your energy into this or else you will put everyone else down, and you don't want to put everyone else down. You don't want to be that one piece of shit who doesn't show up to work overnight shifts even though you don't get paid anymore from it. Like, I wouldn't get more money from working overtime. I would just get pizza, right? And people would be like, oh yeah, you would, or I could get like days off, but I wouldn't use the days off because I would never find the time to use it, right? um because you would always be like, no, I can't take time off, we have this project that is needed. And I wasn't even doing very well, or at least no one told me that I was doing well. Like, everyone was just like, okay, we need to do this, okay, now we've done this, we need to work on this and then this. And there were nothing, like, I didn't feel like the things that I did were good enough, and there were no focus on, like, okay, this is good. Or anytime when people said stuff was good, I was like, okay, no, they're just saying that because they're trying to be nice or whatever. And then they actually just don't find it good looking, because I didn't find it very good myself. Like, I didn't see the value in it. And I also realized, like, I had so much, like, I took so much time to just make the most basic things, because I didn't understand how much time I was supposed to spend on it. So I would be like, okay, this would take like 5 minutes, right? And then it takes 5 minutes, but then the people say like, okay, you need to finish it, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I need to finish it. How do I do that? Because I thought this was finished. Okay, and then I don't feel like comfortable asking, like, how do I how do I make it finished? Like, what do I need to do? Because I don't know, it just felt wrong to ask, because everything was just like so high paced, so high stress, and like high high risk, basically. If I did something wrong, I felt like I would put everyone at like out of a job. Like, if I didn't do what I was supposed to do, everyone would suffer. And the only person who suffered was my only, like, my own mental health. Like, no one else, I don't think anyone else was like bothered. But there were some times where I walked home from the work from work, when most of the people were at, like, on site in, like, the other side of the world, like, I think it was like Vancouver or something. um and then they got super pissed because I was like, bro, I was tired. And then the next day I got yelled at so much because, oh, you didn't do the things. And I was like, yeah, I didn't do the things, fuck you. I didn't say fuck you because I was so fucking terrified of that guy. And yeah, I don't know, I just felt like it was the dream job. I need to keep this job because there is no other job like this, and this is like, I will never have as much fun at a job. But I was just like coping so hard. Like, I was so afraid to lose that job that I was like, I don't know. There were so many times that I was like, oh no, I'm gonna lose the job if this happens, if this happens, and if this happens. Like, there were so many things in my head that just told me like, oh, I'm gonna lose my job because fuck whatever. And so I was just so stressed. Like any like there were some like whenever like the first time I went to like the first times I had like suicidal thoughts and stuff. I when I went to like the therapist or like the acute therapist type thing, it like I just had, I don't know, there was so much pressure because I felt like, oh no, if I don't know, I just felt like the only way to get away from like the stress was to just not live, because I couldn't take a sick day off. I couldn't go to the doctor. I felt like I had like problems that I felt like I needed to go check, but then I was like, no, but what if I am not here for the vibe for the people? And then I told the office manager, and he was like, no, you just go to the things you need. And I'm like, I don't know, it just didn't help, because he would just tell me like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine, and then it wasn't fine. And like, okay, I'm gonna just go listen to the, okay, it's fine, okay, and then it's not fine, and then I tell him again it's fine, okay, I guess it's fine, oh no, 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 it's not fine. And so it just like, I don't know, I felt like the only way would be if I just killed myself, like either like jumping in front of a bus or whatever, or like bringing a knife into the toilet, or like, am I quick enough, like would people hear, because the problem was like, um the toilets, you could hear someone breathe, and like, oh, it was so uncomfortable. And so I was like, okay, but if I jump off the balcony, I was like, I had watched Lost a few years prior, and I was like convinced that if I tried to kill myself, I would survive no matter what. And so if I jumped from the height of like, I think it was like 4 or 5 stories tall, uh, I would survive, and I would just be crippled, and I just couldn't do anything other than, yeah, I couldn't do anything that I was good at anymore. And so I was like, okay, I can't do that. And like I also thought like, okay, I couldn't get hit by a bus because I would survive. Like no matter what I would do, I just in my head I believed like I was unkillable. Like if I jumped off a cliff, I would survive, and someone would magically find me, and like rescue mission would be so swift that I just, the only thing that would happen would be me being like paralyzed from the neck down forever. And so I never like attempted, because I was like, I'm no matter how bad my situation is, it can always go worse by like if I end up crippled and I can't do anything, like at that point, like I would rather just die, because the only thing that I saw as value of me was my skills. And if all of my skills were useless because I couldn't like do anything, like I saw myself as like a useless human, and that is not kind of what you want to, yeah, it's not a healthy place to work. Like there were other people who also were like affected by the, like everyone were affected by everything. um but more, there were some people who masked it better, or some people who coped better, I guess. Or coped harder, I guess, is one way to say it. um or at least that's how I understood everything. Like everyone just coped and just trying to get along, even though everything's just burning. And I don't know, I just don't feel like I saw an ad about a school, like a school in like Oslo or something, about like leadership, and they like described like common bad types of leaders, and they were like uh, comedians trying to compete in like being the worst. And they were so like they were so like it just reminded me of like the vibe from where I worked, and like, oh my god, okay, maybe it isn't a maybe it really is a very bad company or whatever. And like, I don't know how they, I don't know, I don't want to end up in the situation of the CEO, so I don't want to like, I don't know, because he would like he didn't make anything anymore. He would just talk to people. Like, I like talking to people and like promoting the stuff that I make, but I like talking about it because I make it. It's not like I wouldn't be happy about like telling someone like, oh, look at this thing that I hired someone on Fiverr to do for me for a amount of money or whatever. But that's kind of what that guy did. Like, his only job was like marketing, basically. And I don't know, he was also supposed to do other things like be contactable, like a person who had like control over certain stuff, but it just didn't do anything. Or at least when it did stuff, it would be like against the company. It would be like against everything. And like everyone would be like, no, why you gotta do that? And like he would take that as like people being like negative for like the wrong reason, and like, oh, I gotta do this because people said I shouldn't, and if people say that I shouldn't do it, that means I gotta do it. And like not taking in like criticism, and like only seeing criticism as like a roadblock, like you're wrong because I know this stuff. And like he was using more and more AI to just show us concepts and stuff, and he started using AI and like concept pitches and stuff. And I don't know, it was just, I don't know, I felt so wrong. I just felt like I was in the wrong place, but like I felt like I had nowhere else to go. And that's kind of what a cult is. Like, they take you in because you have nowhere else to go and you feel like you're a waste of human life, and then they give you a purpose, they give you like a meaning. And that's basically what that job was. Because I before I got the job there, I had no no hope left. Like, I thought like, okay, I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck because I don't have any hope for my future. I'm probably not gonna live long enough to like do anything special. And so when I got that job, I was like, yo, okay, I'm gonna put all my effort into learning 3D modeling because then I'll be useful as a person, and I'll be useful to this company, and I'll and this is my calling. And so whenever I felt like, oh shit, I'm gonna lose this job, it felt like, oh no, I'm gonna lose myself. Like, I would rather lose myself than lose the job. Like, that's kind of, it's like how very dedicated cult members like kill themselves. Like, it can be like told to like, oh, we gotta do a mass suicide because uh, our god told us to. And then you're like, oh, without this, if everyone else is doing it, I want to do it too because this is the only place where I have value. And like it really was just like the, I don't know, it was a cult. And I don't know, I feel like there were other people who also had that mindset. Only a few that had like the very strong mindset of that. um and I don't know, it I'm very happy that I got out of there. in the way that I did. Like if I had finished my degree because I had like 5 months left on my degree, or to finish my degree on my internship. Yeah. Um, and if I had finished my internship there and then gotten fired, I wouldn't have gotten as much help from the government to find a new place, or like get help in like finding a job, I think. Um, and so me having this, like I've been for over a year now, I've been like without a job, and I've kind of been chilling and making art and learning stuff that I've been interested in, like music, um, and yeah, and physical art stuff. I was like music, and like have I done nothing else? But then I was like, oh yeah, no, I've made like figurines and stuff, and yeah, I've had a lot of fun learning stuff, but I've also pushed myself a lot harder, since I've been like, okay, if I don't push myself as hard, I won't learn enough and I will waste my time. And so I thought I was like put into psychosis or whatever, because I was like not sleeping or something, but I think I just had a lot of stress or whatever. Because I would get really paranoid whenever I tried to fall asleep. I would get ready for bed, and then I would feel like whenever I would like close my eyes, there would be someone standing just waiting to kill me or something. Or like in the windows, I was like, my mind was kind of like, it wasn't like hallucinations, but it was like my mind took a snapshot of whatever I'm looking at, and then like photoshopping in some like people. And so it wasn't like actual uh psychosis, because I could tell that they weren't there, but it was like, okay, at what moment is my brain going to snap and like show me the actual thing coming after me, right? Like when is it going to go from just being a just being my imagination to being psychosis, right? And I got so paranoid, and I didn't sleep, and I just drank a lot of coffee, and just I don't know, I felt really bad. And um and then after I had been at like therapy, I started like realizing like, okay, I gotta actually like relax and like have time to like reflect and like chill and stuff. And after I've done that, I've started to feel like I'm just becoming more and more lazy, kind of. I'm just like, I can take way less now. Like I get a lot easier, like tired a lot easier. At least that's how I feel. Like I feel like the least amount of things, just no, the like very many things, even if it's just tiny bit of effort, just completely drains me, and it just feels so annoying, because I just feel like maybe I've just lost all of my um ambition, or maybe I've just lost all of my my interest and stuff like that. But I think it's more that I've kind of just realized like how tired I actually do get, and instead of compensating by drinking a lot of coffee and like fucking up my brain, I've started to like accept that, like, okay, I did actually do a lot this week. It's just not very like, compared to like the normal person's day-to-day life, it's kind of nothing. But that's because the weaknesses that I have makes the normal things in life kind of difficult, and things that are difficult for a lot of normal people are very easy for me. So it's easy for me to like dedicate huge amounts of time to a thing that I'm just slightly interested in. Whereas for someone, they might have like a lot of problem like committing even a tiny bit of time to stuff that they're even like a lot of that they even have a lot of interest in, or they might be like clueless of like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life, so therefore I'm just gonna do this one thing, and then yeah, I don't know, I have a lot of strengths that can easily get overshadowed by my weaknesses if you look at it like compared to what a normal person is supposed to be able to do. And like if you need a normal person and uh, you're offered me, you're probably gonna get upset because like I can't do the things. But if you need a person who can do different things than the normal things, you would probably get upset with a normal person and like love having me like working or doing something, because my brain works differently, and if you try to make me do something where I need to use my brain in a way that's like where I have to think uh, like normal, or do things like normal people, I guess, it doesn't really work very well. But if you need someone, like if you need a different perspective, like if you need someone to do a task that you have already figured out the way to do it, then I would be a bad person for that task. But if you need someone to find a way to do a task, I'm more of a better pick for that kind of stuff, because or that's at least how I would see myself, at least, because I don't like just following instructions, because like if the work that I do could be done by anyone else, literally anyone else could be like a lot better at it. But if it's something where only my way of seeing patterns is like that's the only way to do it, that is a like that's the best type of task for me, in my opinion. I think, at least that's what I think. Like it's just the same as like me saying like, oh, I wanna do everything on my own, I wanna start my own company and stuff. Like I don't know until I find out the opposite, right? You don't really know until you know that you're wrong. So you only so you think you're right until you know you're wrong, basically. So yeah, so me thinking that is because I don't have anything to support the idea that I'm wrong about that. So that's why I think that. And I know this is a very long, oh Jesus Christ, yeah, this is definitely the longest one I've had. There's a lot of yapping. I mean, if you're listening this far, you definitely like it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go and play the saxophone a little bit, practice a little bit, maybe take a shower. I think I need to. No, I'm not gonna bother washing my hair because that takes an hour, and it also needs to dry, and I don't bother with that. But yeah, I'm gonna go and take a piss, and then I'm gonna take a shower, and then I'm gonna play some saxophone. Yeah. Oh, that's probably the best investment of money that I've spent since like my GPU or whatever. Nah, every time I spend money on like a new hobby, it's usually beneficial, because it's another thing I can do when I get bored of whatever other things that I do. No. Okay, yeah, I'm getting a call from my mom because she's gonna pick me up in like a few hours, hopefully. It's now 12. She's gonna pick me up in 2 hours, I think. 1.5 hours. I'm gonna speed run. I'm gonna have to speed run. I don't remember the. Yeah, okay, have a good day.